This is the business news of Georgia and the world in English on TV3. I am Nugzaru Khaza. Good morning. The presentation of the Georgian Mutual Investment Fund, promulgated by the Prime Minister, is scheduled for the coming 20th of September. The names of potential investors have become known to our TV3, and the process of investment is already on its way. Number one, with $500 million on the investors list, figures the Arab investment company called Rakia. The Turkish Ahmet Çelik Investment, the Dhabi Group of the United Arab Emirates, and the Chinese Sovereign Fund, taken together, are aiming at $1 billion investment. The Kazakh businessman Mashkevich and the Patarkasishvili family of Georgia are also represented in the Mutual Investment Fund, although the size of their investment has not yet been divulged by the president of the fund. Members of the late Badri Patarkasishvili family are also refraining from specifying the figures. Interestingly enough, the expert opinions differ concerning the fund's future operation. According to one of the specialists, the invested money might improve the standard of living in the country. Another expert is giving a radically differing estimation of the fund, emphasizing its inability to affect the quality of life of a rank and file in the country. He says the investors are simply trying to reallocate the spheres of influence between themselves. Georgia's Minister of Economy has noted that in the future 4 years, $10 billion are expected to flow into our economy via the Mutual Investment Fund. The Prime Minister of Georgia is asking his ambassadors in foreign countries to liven up their activity towards pulling more and more investments into the country's economy. Ivanishvili says that Georgia's favorable geopolitical position needs to be used to the utmost for implementing certain transnational projects and for the enhancement of international cooperation on every possible level.
We must develop the economy cooperation with Black and Caspian Sea, the Middle East and Asian countries. The invigoration of economic and diplomatic ties with these nations is necessary. Hence, I would ask our ambassadors in those countries to work more actively in terms of attracting more investments.
The Prime Minister emphasized the importance of our cooperation with major growing economies like China, Brazil, and India, whose direct investments in Georgia's economy has to be sought for without delay. Estonia became the first European nation which has achieved the energy independence in natural gas consumption. How about Georgia? Does Georgia have a chance to be energy independent anytime soon? According to the Georgian Oil and Gas Corporation, Georgia is almost 100% dependent on other countries and the gas import. Georgia at this time produces only 8 to 10 million cubic meters of gas annually, which I would say is just a drop in the bucket. The experts of the corporation are telling our TV3 that Georgia has enough natural potential to be fully self-sufficient in gas production and consumption. He is talking about the Samgori and Rustavi deposits of 7 to 8 billion cubic meters of gas. Naturally, the industrial production of gas in Georgia may become possible only in case of tackling the existing technical problems. Meanwhile, the annual consumption of gas in Georgia is as much as 2 billion cubic meters. It'll take several years until the demand on gas in Georgia locally is satisfied, provided the existent potential is put to use someday.
In Georgia, natural gas is produced along with oil, reaching 15 to 20,000 cubic meters a day, making an annual capacity of 8 to 10 million cubic meters. One pool can give about 25 million cubic meters of gas a year. If a couple of extra pools are drilled, we can extract additional 60 to 70,000 cubic meters of gas a day.
In the energy experts' educated opinion, at this particular stage, the energy independence of Georgia is possible only if the consumption of natural gas in the country is cut.
Georgia must possess almost 1 billion tons of oil deposit, but the presumable deposit is not a proven fact. Georgia also has a rich natural gas deposits, but its industrial production remains impossible so far. The actual production will certainly enhance the chance of our energy independence.
Our TV has received a clear expert comment that the achievement of complete energy independence is practically impossible in the nearest future. Too bad, isn't it? The Vice Premier and the Minister of Energy, Kachi Kaladze, is excluding the possibility of slowing down of foreign investments into the energy sector in times of presidential elections. According to his recent statement, the current Georgian government is creating every favorable condition for the investors. As he said, the government is prepared to sign the projects with the investors in September, providing for the construction of several hydroelectric power stations in the country. The minister noted that the energy sector is remaining for the investors as the most attractive sphere of our economy. In the first quarter of the current year, the direct foreign investments into the energy sector have made more than $40 million, having become the leader among other sectors of Georgia's economy. A new major industrial project in Georgia, a $1 billion carbamide factory, will be constructed here by the Azerbaijan state-owned oil company. Let me remind you that carbamide is another name of urea. It is a white water-soluble crystalline compound, the synthetic form of which is used as a fertilizer and animal feed. The presentation of the project to the public will take place until the end of this September, right after which the Azeri Oil Company will start working on raising funds for its implementation.
The company which has built a similar factory in Baku will finalize its work on Georgian project in September. The presentation will follow immediately. It is presumed that the initial technical measures will be taken as early as this September.
The site of the future carbamide factory is located in Kulevi, the village in the Khobi district on the Black Sea coast, where the Azeri Oil Company is operating one of its oil terminals. Abdullayev and the Georgian president had together broken ground for the project in 2012. The construction of the factory will be finished in 2015. Following the August of 2008 war with Russia, this is going to be Georgia's first participation in the Russian exhibition of agricultural products, which is going to take place between the 16th and 19th of September of the current year. One of the themes of the exhibition is going to be the prospect of return of Georgian fruits to the Russian market. According to the National Food Agency, this year Georgia will not expose its product at the exhibition in Moscow, but the fact of formal participation in the Russian exhibition may work as a precondition for Georgia's return to the Russian market. The approval certificate for the high-risk products will soon be released by the Russian experts. The document will let the Georgian produce and the citrus fruits to hit the Russian market again.
The food companies from all over the world are participating in the exhibition. This is the good chance for us to get acquainted with the achievements of the world in this field. The conference on the topic of citruses will be held within the framework of the exhibition. The possibility of export of Georgian citrus fruits will make the main topic of the day.
When in Georgia several weeks ago, the Russian experts got themselves acquainted with the process of inspection and certification of the products meant for the export. After having lifted the embargo on low-risk products, the Georgian side is getting ready for starting the export of high-risk products too. The South Caucasus regional manager of a finance company, Thomas Lubick, has made a comment on the situation in the country's economy. He stated that international organizations are expecting a 4% growth of Georgia's economy until the end of the year. One of the reasons of the growth being a favorable business atmosphere in the country. He said the most interesting spheres of investment here are agriculture and infrastructure.
Well, IFC doesn't make its own financial prognosis for Georgia. I think the best people to talk to on this would be World Bank or IMF. And I think IMF is saying 4% growth is what's possible this year in Georgia. From our perspective, we continue to be active, trying to find those places where IFC can make investments and provide advisory services to help do sustainable economic growth that will create more jobs. As I mentioned before, the areas that we see potential for additional investments are in agribusiness, manufacturing, infrastructure, as well as hydropower. Hydropower is one where we really think there's quite a lot of potential. And there we know that there's strategic investors actively looking at the sector with whom we're ready to partner.
The Georgian economy cannot help being under the effect of difficulties in the world economy, which is working as a deterrent for major investments in Georgia currently. The ministers of finance and economy are working on a main strategic document of the country's development. The Minister of Finance, Nodar Khadouri, has told our TV3 that the main strategic perimeters have been specified in the document which is going to be presented to the public next week. The chief financier of the country is explaining the unfavorable economic situation in Georgia by low competitive ability of our national product. He is convinced that the improvement of our competitive ability in international marketplace will automatically solve the problem, immediately creating more jobs and letting the investments grow.
The document reflects the Georgia of 2020 and the steps to be made to achieve the goal. The targeted objectives will certainly be measured for the longer run, but at this stage, with this particular document, we're aiming at eliminating the major problems, which is important for Georgia and its economy.
The presentation of the strategic economic document to the public is scheduled for the 13th of September at Tbilisi State University. Minister of Environmental Protection has made a statement that the infrastructural project should not be a reason of harming the nature. In the last quarter of a century, the ecology in Georgia has suffered a lot of damage. Hence, the minister's initiative is very much welcome and timely. Our correspondent Kote Mosidze has looked into the problem.
Not only in Georgia, but in the entire world, there has always been a controversy between business and the environmental protection. The contradiction between the two is especially strong in our country today.
I completely agree with the minister's statement that the modern infrastructure development in Georgia is very critical and requires a very careful approach. The best way would be for this country to learn and benefit from the best practices developed in many developed countries, that is based on the sustainable development practices, harmonizing social, economic and environmental spheres of activities, and which is absolutely critical for sustainable future of countries. The best practices in infrastructure development is based on a very rich experience of United States in sustainable design of facilities in sensitive environment, in natural and cultural environment. That is very interesting new practice on harmonizing the biogeographic features with the historical phenomena and using the natural processes. That is providing the new opportunities for physical and visual harmonization of new structures in sensitive environment.
The GDP growth is essential, but from my point of view, it should not affect environmental stability.
The problem seems to be very serious. It is probably high time to learn how to make difference between the good and the evil. In what way the military developments in Syria may reflect on Georgia? According to the National Statistics Office of the country, in the first quarter of the current year, the direct foreign investments from Syria have gone over $2 million, which is 10% higher compared to last year. The Minister of Finance has made a comment of a very generic character, saying that the stable economic relations with any country are important. Really. The minister had no information on the subject other than that. Same was the situation with the Minister of Economy, who has refrained from making any comment on the subject at all. The Japanese cosmetics maker Kanibo announced that they would be recalling 54 skin whitening products distributed all over Asia, causing some kind of white patches on the skin of the users. According to the company, the substance received approval from the Ministry of Health after passing extensive safety tests. The company is recalling over 500,000 items that have already been sold at both the domestic and international markets. There are almost 9,000 injured persons out there. In Japan itself, the product is being sold in thousands of stores all over the country. And finally, Charlie Chaplin's life and work is being memorialized in the neoclassical mansion by Lake Geneva. Chaplin moved there in the 1950s to escape Senator McCarthy's witch hunt for anyone he suspected of communism. Besides his extensive body of work, museum developers are keen to stress Chaplin's humanistic politics and social values. Laura Chaplin, Charlie's granddaughter, is an artist who lives between England and Switzerland. Part of her work is dedicated to her grandfather. For her, the museum is the perfect way to celebrate the godfather of silent movies. That's it today. Thank you for watching. I am Nugzarukhadze. The business news will be back on the air next Sunday morning at 11, right here at TV3. See you then.